Oh, wait, there we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Comic Book Club. This is the live show we do where anyone with a webcam or microphone and headphones is allowed to join. You also have to have a legal copy of whatever we're talking about. Today, we're talking about Thor, God of Thunder, Volume 1, The God Butcher. This is the first volume in Jason Aaron's Thor run. And joining me today to discuss this, we have Terry.
Hi.
Yeah. And Robert Emmett back again.
I am surrounded by idiots.
Nice. Thanks. Sure.
So I don't mean it. I happened to be wearing this T-shirt today, and I was like,
so we're talking about Thor, so I thought it'd be appropriate if I had a hammer with me. So anyone seen the pictures of Chris Hemsworth where they photoshopped like Mjolnir out, and he's just got a regular hammer? They're gorgeous.
Yeah. I saw one where they photoshopped Mjolnir out and replaced it with a basketball, so it looked like he was going for a dunk.
Nice.
Yeah.
So anyways, this is the first volume of Jason Aaron's Thor run. I remember this got recommended to me to do for an episode of Trade Talk, and I finally was able to find it and do it. And then since it was a Marvel month, I'm like, okay, what kind of characters can I throw up for people to vote on? And I had this line around, so I thought it'd be a good option to talk about. So I guess I'll just start with you guys. What's your exposure to this?
Like I said, I started reading Thor very recently when it went back to legacy numbering. So I kind of know what's going on in the current arc, and I've sort of gathered events from this just from context. But I was really interested in going back and reading all this stuff later. But it's kind of like when you watch Dragon Ball Z,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you're introduced to Dragon Ball Z, and then you go back and
You
watch Dragon Ball, and it's not bad. It's good.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. It's well made, but you're kind of let down a little bit just because it's been built up to you and stuff like that.
So you've seen the payoff, and now you're going back and seeing a bunch of the build up, and so it's kind of iffy for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Terry?
Yeah, so I read this as it was coming out, I guess, a couple of years ago, because Jason Aaron is one of my maybe 3 or 4 Marvel writers that I like. So I don't really read. I pretty much only read stuff if I like the writer, and in addition to that, in terms of all media, my favorite types of stories are always about gods, and so Thor and Doctor Strange are like my favorite Avengers. So this I had to read this because of Thor and the writer, and it was, for me, it was like pretty much perfect what I would want, including the artwork as well. It's also one of my favorite artists, or maybe Marvel artists. So this was just like, it ticked all of the boxes for me. So it was just perfect.
Nice. So yeah, Jason Aaron's been writing Thor for what, like 6-8 years now.
Yeah.
And it all kind of started here. I remember this coming, like there was a free condensed version of the first issue that was like given out at the screenings of the first Thor movie. I'm pretty sure. And so it's kind of interesting to just get all the complete story here and kind of get into it. I'll start us off as far as like discussing the story itself. I really like the premise of this, that it deals so heavily with the mythology, particularly in juxtaposition to the cinematic Thor, who, like, it took a couple years before we finally got like a really good Thor movie, and even then, where this, like, it's all based in mythology, it's all based in the weird craziness of the Marvel universe, and in the idea of divinity, of godhood. And it doesn't shy away from that at all, whereas I feel like a lot of things that, especially Marvel Cinematic Universe, that write Thor, just kind of try to write him as like, oh, he's an alien, except not quite.
Yeah.
This is just really, really embracing the idea of being an immortal being of myth, and that's really cool.
Yeah, like the mythos building it seems to do in regards to how godhood works in the Marvel universe. It's like this book opens with Thor hearing prayers, like like in Bruce Almighty or something like that. He's actually responding to a prayer of alien people, and he's actually doing godly things and stuff like that. And it's it's interesting whenever you well, it actually opens with young Thor being like having his first encounter with the sort of the aftermath of a god butcher attack. But um, it's the first time I've ever read Thor where he has felt godly. They've actually gone with the premise of godhood and whatever that entails. Um, and because I've read a little bit of Simonson, and like it's sci-fi, it's science fantasy, epic melodrama. Before it really feels like these entities are actual gods and stuff like that. It's just kind of like it is the sort of oh they're like gods, but they're because unto us they are like gods, and but they're not really godly, if you know what I mean. It's
They're not
odd.
just superpowered aliens in this.
Yeah,
Like he actually has things related to divinity.
yeah,
Again, like the answer, hearing and answering prayers, being able to go places that mortals are not like capable of visiting, stuff like that.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a
No,
couple of other. We got to meet a couple of other Earth Earth based pantheons very briefly as well, which I thought was actually really cool to introduce because we have Norse in Marvel. We have the Norse and the Olympians, but we don't really seem to have a lot of others. Like we
mm-hmm.
don't really touch on the Egyptian gods outside of maybe stuff related to like apocalypse, but we don't really touch on like here we have some of the Slavic gods. There's some uh, gods of like sort of Native American nature gods and stuff like that, or embodiments of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just stuff like that actually sort of helps. Um, it just sort of helps flesh out Earth a little bit more, even though we're barely on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how cosmic this is. It's he's kind of venturing around the Marvel universe, and I like the idea that yeah, it would make sense that other alien races have mythologies all their own and legends
Mm.
all their own, and so just to get to see that like through the world is pretty cool. I think the best example of that, which is just when it's amazingly epic and also kind of scary, is this page with this like
Yes.
behemoth god that Thor finds.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. Falagar the behemoth. That's really really interesting. And like what's really cool about it is they even show a panel of his worshippers praying for his resurrection. I think that's a really really cool little detail to throw in there. And it provides this it provides a grander sense and a higher scope and importance to the story.
I also like just in that page there is the mention of oh last I saw him barely 100 years ago we passed one another on the spaceways and waved like you know and I just kind of like the idea of all these cosmic entities being familiar with each other and stuff like that. And he's talking about the Thalagar won the contest, won the tournament of immortals 5 centuries straight. They say he wrestled black holes just for fun. Like stuff like that really sort of helps. Like I like the idea of these cosmic godlike entities having sort of a sense of community, particularly when you get to the Omnipotence City later, where they actually have like their own sort of version of the UN, but for gods and stuff like that.
Yeah, I also really like just a lot of like offhanded lines, like Sorkiri, the Skrull goddess of love, gets mentioned as one of the victims that he finds. So just like the Skrulls got gods. That's really cool. Yeah. But yeah, that citadel with the parliament and the library.
Just like the UN, they take 200 years to get anything done.
Oh well, no, you don't understand the UN at all. It doesn't get anything done. Like this is it's really cool to just see all this world building for the divine side of the Marvel universe, I guess you'd call it, is really, really neat. It's also rendered really, really well visually, because it could really look like just a bunch of guys in togas or something, but the artist does a great job of just showing a real diversity of what gods can appear like. So like you got and he does it with them brutalized and murdered, which is kind of more impressive. But they all look really, really distinct and different. And that's cool.
I love, like, this artist does really great. Okay, some expressions are a little goofy. Like Pouty Face 4 here. Ow.
Yeah, he does the same face.
It's a little goofy, but he captures some really great detail. Like if you look at the lines on the old librarian's face, and you can make out like liver spots on his hands, and like you can see like the sinew and vein of Thor's biceps and stuff like that. And this is actually, I love this design for Thor. It's very minimalist. And I kind of like that about Thor designs. I don't like it when Thor's costume is overly ornate. I feel like less is more. Especially if you have him with like the sleeveless look and stuff like that. It's like I don't need armor and stuff like that. Like, come at me, bro. Kind of stuff. Do miss the beard though. It's weird to see Thor without a beard.
Yeah, I can dig that. I don't know, Tari. What do you think? You've been quiet. Tari, damn, why do I keep wanting to go Tari? It's weird.
You guys have spoken a lot about like the scale of the story and how it's like beyond mortals. And one of my few favorite pages, a couple of favorite pages, was when Iron Man showed up just for a little bit, as if it was about to turn into an Avengers story and connect it to the rest of the Marvel universe. But as soon as Iron Man showed up, it was very clear to him that no, this is our business and we're not involved. And then the rest of the story was just Thor having a lot of responsibility, unlike the movies a bit. He's actually doing things. And as you guys were saying before, it's all there's giant gods, there's giant cosmic events happening, and it's just beyond what all of the humans are dealing with. So I like that idea. But something else that I wanted to mention was the 3 different Thors that are showing up in this book, as well as the fact that it kind of starts off as a little bit of a murder mystery as well. I say as well because of the other Batman Wonder Woman book that's coming out right now.
That's what I was going to say as well. I was going to bring that up at some point. I like the idea of, because the perception of Thor is that he's kind of a blunt object and stuff like that. Even the librarian says so. We have no. He says something to that effect.
No hall of hammers.
Yeah, and My favorite line from that librarian, which, by the way, to hell, that dude is so snarky. But oh, if you're looking for a wing of murder, sorry, if you're looking for the library of murder, it's over there. There's an entire wing dedicated to your family.
Hmm.
Uh, that dude's just. But
Yeah.
it when you think detective story, you would not think Thor.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what he's having to do here. He's doing research, he's following up leads, he's visiting scenes of the crime, he's examining sort of the bodies. It's really cool that way, and I think they do, like, for retconning a villain into Thor's early history. I feel like Jason Aaron does, I think, kind of the best job of it, where it's kind of Thor is ashamed um, that he was bested by this thing, but also that he had to get saved by humans. Because
Yeah.
especially like young Thor, like this is a Thor who is worthy to pick up the hammer.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
his
Arrogant.
idea of worthy is being the strongest and being the meanest and being a great warrior. But of course, that Thor would not tell anyone about what happened. No one will tell, oh, I was chained up for 17 days and tortured, and some humans had to rescue me. And he says to the humans, like, you will never speak of this day again. So it makes sort of it makes a good sort of conceit for why now.
Yeah, and it also works that he thought that Gore is dead the whole time.
Yes, yes,
That's the things, like he legitimately thought that Gore had been defeated.
yeah,
So it's not like he didn't tell anyone while Gore was just running around the countryside or the galaxy murdering gods. He thought he beat him like in a shameful way, but he still thought he won.
and
So
yeah,
it kind of works that way.
and his first reaction whenever he finds out that he's back is, I gotta warn the other gods.
Hmm.
Like, so Thor's handled like very sensibly in this regard, because this very easily could have been one of those stories of this very could have easily been like a CW kind of, well, why don't you tell them? Why
Hmm.
are you keeping things to yourself that endanger other people? Oh, for
Yep.
their own good. No, no, you're being stupid, Barry or Ollie or whoever it is this week on CW.
Oh my. Yeah, you're right. So that really does help, and it really works. I do like the three Thors thing. My favorite is Future Thor. Future
Oh
Thor
yeah,
is a fucking like trip to read with the damn oh, what's it called? The robot.
destroyer arm,
Yeah, the
the arm
destroyer arm.
destroyer.
Oh
Oh,
God, that's so cool that he's using that like as a prosthetic limb. That is such a cool idea.
I
Uh,
I do love Thor with one eye, and I'm really pissed that they didn't stick with the eye patch look in the movies,
mhm.
because if in Norse mythology the loss of an eye is meant to symbolize wisdom, and it was something that was addressed in Thor Ragnarok, and like, that, because that's how like Odin didn't lose his eye. Odin took his eye out and exchanged it for omnipotence, and like, it's just kind of, I was just watching this, I was just reading this, and I was just like, I wish we got eye patch Thor in movies. Eye patch Thor is cool, and it's
Yeah,
just
it
cool.
really is. I've Patch Thor's the coolest Thor. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff with the different ages, and one thing I'm really impressed by is how well it transitions between the different versions of Thor, and it doesn't like come off as confusing. And they handle that in a number of ways. Both in story, it makes sense when it's switching time periods, but visually how it's represented, each of the Thors is rendered in a different costume, which is great. Obviously, old Thor has the eye patch and the gray hair, so he's the easiest to pick out. But like all the subtleties change. Like I want to show this page of old Thor stuff. His dialogue boxes or his monologue boxes, I'm sorry, are white with like this gray background and these dots on the on framing the panel. Present day Thor, who's the one we follow the most, his internal monologues have white with this red border around it. And then it's different for young Thor as well. I
It's like,
think his are just straight white.
yeah, it's like they're becoming sort of more ornate as they go along. So you go from Thor warrior to Thor prince to Thor king, and so it's sort of like visually illustrating sort of
Damn it, I
the
had it. I
grandeur.
lost it.
That's great. That's just great stuff.
Yeah, it's just there's right on the opening page you can see young Thors are just straight white boxes. So just little stuff like that really tips it and changes the tone, changes the way it reads, is a really, really strong way to present the story. And what's really impressive about that is particularly doing this kind of, Nolan gets credit for nonlinear storytelling, but whatever. Nolan as jump in time zones kind of thing. I never feel confused. I never don't know which Thor I'm following or why this flashback or flash forward doesn't work within this scene.
Yeah.
That being said, let me ask you guys this. Do you feel that showing old Thor so early in the story is a mistake? Or because I don't know, he becomes relevant the least, particularly by the end, he's the least relevant. Or I'm sorry, at the beginning, he's the least relevant to the overall story. And I don't know, something tells me that if all of his stuff didn't happen until the last issue, that it would be a much more profound reveal. What do you guys think?
I think it would just be like a more, I guess, surprising reveal. But I think it's important to show him early on to establish that this is a story that's continuing for thousands of years in Thor's life. And I guess you guys, this is like half of a story what we're reading now. And the King Thor is quite important to how things play out. Yeah, I don't. My point is just that this isn't a story happening just to um, event Thor the Avenger. So I think it is important to show King Thor straight away. Also to establish that I guess he remembers. Does he mention he remembers these battling Gore or well whatever he says at the beginning? I think it was just a good. It was like a good tease. To get us into the story as well. And directly after we meet King Thor, we do see the youngest Thor like just trying to pick up the hammer for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but early on in his career. So it is a good. It's also a good a good way to just compare the two halves of Thor. Like this is Thor right at the end of his journey. This is him at the beginning of the journey. And now let's get into what the journey's about with the Avenger version of Thor.
Okay.
Yeah. That was one thing that did annoy me. This is very clearly only half a story. Like, I mean, I think I would be more on board with this if, say, the version we were put out to read today was it was a 10 issue thing. So if we did get the full story, I dare say, like, I would have enjoyed it a bit more.
That was my thing. Like I never got volume 2 because leaving it on the cliffhanger for volume 1 collected like this just felt like such a downer. I was reading this last night and I was trying to remember how it ended because I remember that Thor got to his future self and then I couldn't remember what happens after that, and that's the reason why is because nothing happens after that in this volume. And I'm like, why would you collect it like that? It's clearly not. You cannot make an argument to me that the God Butcher story ends when Thor gets there. Like I cannot imagine that volume 2 is a different enough story to justify not just calling it God Butcher Part 2 or whatever.
Like
The same art,
yeah,
everything the same. Yeah.
like at least around that time when DC did the same thing, they would have the decency to like name like if like Sinestro Corps War is in 2 different trades, but they would at least call it Sinestro Corps War Volume 1, Volume 2. So you'd
Yeah.
know to pick up the rest. So you know that you were only getting half a story and you'd have to, you know, it's because I wasn't expecting it to end when it did. I was expecting it to be a completed story arc.
Yeah, me too. Like, I actually feel bad for putting this on the list because if I'd remembered the way it ended, I probably wouldn't have put this up for a voting option. Because yeah, like it kind of makes me want to get the second volume, but at the same time, I'm just kind of annoyed because now I feel like the second volume is going to end with a big cliffhanger. I'm like, oh, well, no thanks.
It does. It absolutely doesn't. It's a complete story beginning to end. The second volume. Volume 3 is like a whole new story, but volume 2 is like, if this was the last Thor story that ever was told, that's what the second volume ends as.
Okay. Yeah, see, if I'd known that, I would have said to get volumes 1 and 2, or to get the hardcover or something. Or I just wouldn't have put it up for the show. But I mean, as is, it's a well-told story, and I'm legitimately intrigued. It's just the when comics are written so much for trade in this day and age, it feels really, really annoying when the trades aren't collected properly.
Yeah.
That gets very frustrating because it just makes you not want to get the other volumes. Because what is this? If you bought this brand new, it should have cost you about $20 US.
Like I felt the exact same whenever I read like one of my favorite storylines, and Ian, don't kick me off the chat for this. One of my favorite stories is Court of Owls, and I was
I reserve the right to remove anyone from chat at any given point. By Rob. No, I'm kidding.
but well, to be fair, I'm scared to go back and reread Scott Snyder because his stuff has just been recently. But so I'm scared to reread it in case it doesn't hold up. But I was really annoyed whenever I got that and I read it and I was loving it, and it was only half a story. Like just like this. So even DC used to at least advertise that their stories were only half a story around about before New 52, and then since then they've not really been doing that very well in their trade. It's a communication issue with how they present their trades.
Yeah.
And I feel Marvel is really one of the things that stops me from actually buying Marvel trades these days, and why I prefer to buy Marvel in singles, is because they're just terrible at collecting in trade. Because they're always renumbering. But it's easier for me to follow renumbering in singles than it is to follow renumbering in trades. Because I don't know what's what. I don't know if this Daredevil Volume 1 is the same as this Daredevil Volume 1 or Volume 2, or which one lines up and stuff like that. Also overpriced, but still, it's another discussion.
Before you buy. But it's worth the research just for these 2 stories, I would say.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I don't want to have to tell people to do homework to go buy a book. It's one of those things. Let's talk about Gore, the God Butcher himself.
Is me at 13. Minus the murder. He is me at 13.
He is definitely me at 13.
Your
murder included.
Your God is dumb. Gods are dumb. They don't do anything. Yeah, I'm edgy.
Yeah, I gotta say, Gore has one of the coolest lines I've read regarding like edgy edgelord atheism kind of things, where like the time god of Kronax tries to like reason, we've never done anything, we're innocent, and Gore just says, in my travels I have learned that there are 2 kinds of gods, those who do harm, and those who do nothing at all. I've yet to decide which I find more worthy of my wrath. Oh, that is such a cool fucking line. I love it.
He's really got he's got an amazing design. There's something just sort of like, okay, first off, when he's got the cloak on and you don't see that he's got like the Twi'lek sort of tentacles going on, like he just looks like Voldemort.
Yes. Oh, that's a good
He's
point.
very
I hadn't thought of
Voldemort.
that.
So
He's like Voldemort fucked a Twi'lek, and then they had a baby that was like super atheist.
I know, man. It's but like Voldemort fucked a Twi'lek, and then they gave the baby up for adoption, and it was adopted by what do you call that guy? Richard Dawkins. That's what this is. But what do you call it? No, I read all of his lines in the Ray Fiennes Voldemort voice in my head.
Oh, nice.
You'll never laugh to yourself so hard.
Yeah, like he's got some really cool, like you mentioned the 13-year-old thing. He's got some cool poses that do feel very youthful in a way. Like this.
No, that's see that there. That is me sitting on a rock, down by the park at age 13, listening to like Linkin Park and shit, and like being all edgy, and being all with my dyed black.
It's got that very like, you just see young people sometimes, they just do shit like I remember I'd just get bored and I'd sit like, this all the time, and people would be like, is that comfortable? I'm like,
no,
I don't care. I'm too edgy for you. Like, that's just, and so he's just got like this, I'm not saying that he's trying to come off as cool or anything, but he just kind of embodies that, like just sitting on that rock, like, oh, it's a good, strong pose. It makes him look intimidating and really fucking evil, but at the same time, it fits with his whole persona of just being so distant, and that really works.
Yeah, I thought he was quite interesting because there's a type of villain that hates the idea of God, they're so against the idea of God being above people, but it's not personal. They just hate like the idea of it. They don't hate the God specifically. But Gore, he kind of has that idea where he hates the idea of gods, but he kind of takes it to another level because he is interacting with literal beings who call themselves gods, and he hates how they like conduct themselves. So it's not just hating the idea of worshipping a god. He hates how these gods have used their status, I guess, yeah, to do either nothing or to cause destruction, or just generally he doesn't like them and what they do. So I feel like he's an interesting I guess twist on the idea of I think there's a word for it, like day something, like
Deicide?
not what that's committing that's killing gods, but there's a word for hating gods. But I don't oh yeah, could look it up later.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna hate me for saying this as well, but Batman v Superman, Lex Luthor. The thing that I did like about him was that he didn't hate Superman. He hated God, and he hated the idea of God, and he hated people's belief in Superman, and that's what he wanted to destroy. That's how I see it. He didn't want to destroy Superman necessarily. He just wanted to destroy people's faith in this guy who they think is a god.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting that this has something that made it into one of the Thor movies. This has a line that was pretty much taken right into the Ragnarok. Tell me now, Prince of Asgard, before all you're able to do is whimper and scream, what was Thor the god of before he died? And then you got
oh yeah,
like
that is That's
that
my
was
favorite.
more or less straight adapted right into Ragnarok, the moment in general. So I thought that was pretty neat
Yeah.
to work in there.
You were just Terry. You were mentioning just sort of Gore's. I was about to say Thor, but Thor. You were mentioning Gore's motivation. Just sort of like he doesn't just tying in with like the little story that Thor mentions about the mad god that went on a killing spree, about how when he was a child he wanted to like he learned the difference between war and murder, and when he looked into this mad god's eyes, he saw he wasn't like wild like a beast. They were calm, and how Gore's eyes are. He sees the same look in Gore's eyes, and so like one of the things that just sort of makes it like one of the things that makes him really terrifying is just this prospect of he is not doing this out of hatred specifically, out of real actual hate. It's he sees it as kind of a liberate, and that like when he's talking to when the soldiers are rescuing Thor, he mentions that look, I'm doing this for you, I'm doing this to free you and stuff like that. So you do have a bit of the Lex Luthor. I'm he believes that he's the hero of this story. Except
Yeah.
I buy it more in this, obviously. I mean, I buy it more because I buy this guy as a threat, and I buy how he's going about doing things. I don't understand fully his motivations yet. I guess I will.
Yeah, I think Volume 2 would probably answer a lot of that, I imagine. Terry,
So
was it?
origin isn't in this. In your book, on the very end of your book, is what happens at the end? Is it Gore's origin or not?
What happens at the end is
a little bit.
It's when Thor gets to the future. That's
Okay, yeah.
that is
the very next issue is like a flashback of Gore's origin, and then it's the rest of the story.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Like when he travels back in time, we get a little bit of it. He was like, "I was taught that the universe was born from the tears of the first god," yada yada. So you get like a little, you get a little bit of it, and it gives me just enough that I have confidence in the next volume to pick up on it and make me buy it. But I also just like sort of there's a little bit of just mentioning when he goes back in time to like the first god.
I love
just seeing
that.
a baby elder god.
Yeah.
Like okay, for starters, that thing is ugly as sin. But like, oh my god, like it's just kind of.
It's creepy. It's like, man, Dr. Manhattan fuck shit up.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts of the book. Yeah.
But like,
that's really good. One thing I want to make sure to mention about Gore is, it sounds a lot like Thor, and that's kind of a problem, but I really like that his name's a homonym for Gore, Gore, and he's a butcher. Yeah, I think that's kind of comic. That's like kind of Silver Agey comic booky, to where if you lied to me and told me this was Jason Aaron rebooting a Silver Age character, I may believe you.
Yeah. I'd love one of these days. I want a comic to be like, oh, what's your villainous motivation for what you do? I was like, my parents literally named me Gore. What else was I going to do with my life? Be an accountant?
Gore, the accountant. Oh.
I have business cards.
Oh, you ought to talk to my accountant. His name is Baby Killer. Does he kill babies? No, his parents were just assholes who wanted to turn him into a supervillain. Oh, well, good for him. Oh,
A little. I know you guys are joking, but a little of that kind of comes up in its origin and stuff. So if
mhm.
you continue, it gets kind of crazy.
Okay.
Wait, do they actually
I'm not
address
gonna
that?
say like what happens, but there's things about his family and stuff like that. And there's like a kind of like a twist later on and stuff. It's really interesting.
Okay. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued and I don't know, I'll keep my eye open is kind of what I get at
Yeah,
with a story that hits me like this is like
yeah.
if I'm at the store and I'm already looking for trades and they have volume 2 in stock, I may consider buying it is kind of my attitude towards stuff like this. It's fun, it's cool. Let me ask you guys this with Gore though. I don't know if Chris Hemsworth, like I know most of the other actors aren't planning to come back. Most of the other Phase One Avengers aren't planning to
Uh,
come back post Infinity War Part Two or whatever they're going to call it. Um, if Hemsworth comes back, could you see Gore? You know, could you see an adaptation of the God Butcher?
I would love that. And Hemsworth's one of the ones that I think, just purely based on how his career outside the MCU has gone, I think Hemsworth would be one of the guys who would probably want to stay on for another couple films until he gets something else, you know.
well,
But
he's like other things. So
yeah, like
um,
Downey's like unless anything comes out about Downey and stuff like that, like that dude's gonna work until the end of time. Same with Chris Evans and stuff like that. Like, you know, so unless we find out that Robert Downey Jr. in the '90s actually committed a bunch of murders or something, that dude's never not getting work.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, that dude
um,
partied hard. Okay, all right. Like, you know, we don't know.
as for me, I don't think MCU would touch anything like this. If I'm being honest, I think they've done like 20 films or something, but only like I personally I feel like only three of them are um like like real films that really touch on some, I don't know, like bigger, darker themes and stuff like that. And this book is quite dark and violent, and I can't see them doing this in the MCU because not that every film is like a comedy, but every single film
Mhm.
is it has to be fun, family friendly, entertainment, and it's this is too. I don't know. This is just
Yeah,
it's too much.
this would probably have to be an R-rated Thor movie.
Yeah.
The more you
I
think
And Chris
about it.
Hemsworth is quite his version of Thor. I don't is like the young version of Thor in this book. I don't really like him in the movies, to be honest. So I don't feel like he's even not smart enough. Not the actor. I mean the character. The character isn't like uh mature enough to be doing investigating this whole murder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd
Um.
probably disagree with that, but I see where you're coming from.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, just about the MCU, it's gone for 10 years now. It's kind of at some point they're going to have to sort of step in. They're going to have to take a risk in regards to doing something a little more out of the box.
They have taken some risks, yeah.
I remember when Doctor Strange was still like this is before we even got casting for Doctor Strange, but I remember people talking about Strange was actually going to be a horror movie, and they had
Yeah.
actually cast. They actually got a
Horror
horror film
director.
director,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and like doing this as like a horror film. So like you take Thor, who's in arguably one of the lightest, breeziest, most comedy driven Marvel movies, and then afterwards you have him do a horror film like that would I feel like
Yeah, that would be great.
doing stuff like that would help give the MCU a bit more longevity because they've they've they are eventually down the line they're going to have to take a risk on
You know.
something with a darker subject matter.
Hey, Red, you're late.
Yeah, I just woke up. Sorry.
Nice, nice. Well, we've been talking this book up, but I was actually getting us close to wrapping up. But why don't you go ahead and give your thoughts on the book then?
I really liked it. Uh, I think probably the thing that really impressed me with this was you don't get much of who Gore is, but you definitely, to some extent or another, understand his worldview immediately, and that gets across just so effectively. And that was really impressive because just from Jason Aaron's Star Wars stuff, his villains never super impressed me,
Oh,
but
that's a good point.
This really works. And maybe a lot of that comes from the fact that he was able to write 3 distinct Thors so well that kind of made Gore work better as a foil for all of them in a slightly different way, because that was very well, because it's hard for most writers to write 1 good Thor, and he writes 3.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, fair. Gore does kind of work because it's interesting because Gore seems to evolve with Thor, given that we only see 2 versions of Gore, right?
Yeah.
Like
That
he's
third is
definitely
kind of off screen.
yeah, but like he gets significantly more cruel as it goes on, though, right? Like the first Gore is actually on some level merciful to Thor. Like, yeah, he tortures him for 17 days, but like his method of trying to get information from Thor through the torture is to promise him that it'll end, to promise him that he'll kill the person that Thor doesn't like first, all that stuff. Whereas, like, as it goes on, Gore gets much more sadistic, particularly with like old Thor is the last god, and he's not allowed to die.
Like,
and
he's just toying with his food and stuff like that. He's like,
yes,
I'm going to drag this out as long as I can.
And since they both seem to be functionally immortal, that's literally forever.
And you don't get that initially. You don't... Like, there's a very subtle little line of dialogue when old Thor's first introduced that I wasn't picking up on. He has been through this like a 1,000 times at first, but there is a subtle line of dialogue that I'm looking for and I'm having trouble finding.
Good luck.
Where are you? Hold on, it's literally where he first shows up. Yes.
Everybody's favorite part. The quiet, that's what I hate the most.
Yes.
The wretched, unending quiet of this place. This hall used to be filled with the noise of battle, of feasting. Now there's just the shuffle of those things out there, mocking me with their blackened silence, and the soft, labored breathing of a tired old god. Damn this quiet. If I'm to die, it will be with a weapon in my hand and a roar in my throat. Bring me my arm. No answer. I'm so damn old I keep forgetting. There's no one left. No one left but me. I am Thor Odin's son, king of a broken Asgard, last of all the gods, and today I will try yet again to see Valhalla. Is it that one?
It's that bit there. So I didn't pick up on I will try yet again to see Valhalla. So that's the clue of this is a reoccurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really there's kind of like, there's nothing crueler for someone whose entire belief system is around honorable death than just dragging it out like that and sort of just denying them what they want the most. It's like, well, now that you want to die, I'm gonna not do that for you.
Mm-hmm. And, it's interesting because Gore doesn't only get more sadistic with Thor, he gets more sadistic with others. What's this guy's name? The god of, like, drink or whatever.
The god of ale and somersaults.
Yeah. This guy right here, that Gore cuts out his eyelids and makes him watch as he kills the rest of his pantheon. To the point where he's begging to kill him kill him now, finally. And then when he isn't killed, he goes and just hides in a cave, and he has this great line. Just leave me be. Just let me hide here until the end of time. I quite like eating bugs and sleeping in mud better than I do being butchered. It's just like he's completely destroyed this person. And that's not the only line. I'm not certain, but I think I may have gone mad at some point. Like, that's just really, really, like, sadistic, and you just see how evil Gore is and how relentless and more sadistic he became.
Yeah, like he even mentions that he's tortured gods of torture.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, and there was one bit where he like got a god of torture to confess to him by butchering his children in front of him and stuff like that.
No. He got it.
Or no, it was he got him to give up his the locations of his children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's super fucked. So that was it's Gore is a very damn intimidating villain, and I agree. I don't think particularly the MCU under Disney would likely have the balls to put Gore in a movie, but my God, if they did, that could be hands down. Gore could easily be one of the best villains of the MCU. Jason Aaron really, really does knock a villain right out of the park right at the get-go of his run, and it makes me interested in what he did with other antagonistic characters throughout the run.
This was I would say throughout the whole run, this is still maybe the best story he's done. I know he's been on Thor for so long, but for me personally, this is the best. This was the best of it.
I mean, it's cool, and they can start out a run really strong.
Not that it was bad later. It's still really good, but I think this was still the best.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the artist here. Isad Ribic. I'm not familiar with their work, but
he's like one of the best Marvel. He did Secret Wars as well, which was amazing with Hickman.
Oh, that's the new Secret Wars with with the God Doom.
So like we were talking earlier about Marvel makes their trades really hard to figure out because they constantly renumber, and like
that's a poster.
Between constantly renumbering and also naming story arcs the same thing, like there are like 2 Secret Empires, 2 Secret Wars. I'm like, come the fuck on with this noise, stop it.
And not to be confused with Secret Wars 2.
Right?
And Secret War as well, which is
oh my. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool stuff. I will say I do really like the art, though I feel like the coloring changes really infrequently and it gets weird. Like sometimes it's really, really realistically rendered and it kind of has that almost painted look. Then other times it's very washed out and a lot flatter. And so that just
because it's a different colorist. It's a different colorist.
In the different eras, is it?
No, just issue 1 was Dean White's, and then but the rest was all the same guy. So I don't know. It's only the first chapter that was done by someone else.
Well, then that's weird because like this stuff right here looks very, again, it's kind of flatter, kind of more I don't really know what to call it. It's more washed out kind of color palette. And then when you get to like the end, like Rob was just showing off that really epic full page of Thor when he arrives in the future, and like he looks super awesome and all that stuff, but at the same time, it's so much more realistically rendered.
To me, it just seems like the difference between day and night. Like he uses brighter colors sometimes. Like I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
trying to
it's.
find the damn page. I can't seem to. That's
I can't find
annoying.
it either, and I was showing it off. What the hell?
Yeah, how'd that happen? Where'd that
We're
show
just
up?
really. I think
Oh
we're
wait,
just
that's
really
the end
bad
of an
keeping.
issue. I keep thinking it's the beginning of an
There we
issue.
go. It's end of issue 4.
Yeah.
Thor.
Yeah, like that's a much more realistically rendered and highly detailed, almost like Alex Ross painting style look to it.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other stuff just looks really flat, and obviously you put more detail into some stuff than others, but it's just really all over the place.
Like he's got the blood and the battle damage and the like.
Oh yeah.
Just
I can.
so.
Yeah, this is like a full page, kind of like a close-up ish. Some of the
Although
other ones.
does he look like he has a bit of Thanos chin right there?
Oh no,
Oh, yeah.
not a case of Thanos chin. That's completely incurable.
I think it's blood.
Yeah, I think that's the blood,
that's why
but
I
I see
had
what
to
you're
grow
saying.
this out.
Yeah,
That's why he
the
grows the
Thanos chin,
beard. He had
gotcha.
Thanos chin. He needed to disguise it.
There you go. All right. Well, does anyone have anything else they want to talk about with this?
You guys probably already talked about this, but I really like how this uses other pantheons, including aliens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
we kind of started out there.
We don't have a modern day Earth. Really, that was nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. Oh, one thing I wanted to talk about. I found this very annoying. The little AR shit, augmented reality.
Oh,
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah, that's cool if you want to add that gimmick to your book. Marvel, if you're not going to stick with the app and, support it, then don't add that to printed copies of your book that are going to be around for, years after you decide not to stick with your little fad.
Yeah.
That's
Especially like putting it all in.
because it interrupts some of the really cool panels,
Yeah.
It's just this fucking little AR sticker down in the bottom. I'm like, get that shit out of here. What else? I don't know. Just I was very upset by that because I was like, okay, well, I didn't know about that the first time I read it. I'm gonna see if I can download the app and see what exactly this is like and how it enhances the book. It's like, yeah, we don't support that anymore. Thanks.
It's like, what are some of the gods that we come across here? Like we give like gods of beheading, gods of torture. Why are all the gods such vicious cunts?
Well, blame people, man.
That's what God does to you.
Where
right?
is the god of tits and wine?
I mean, we see him, but his eyelids are cut out and he's been tortured.
Yes, he's the god of thingy and somersaults. He's the closest thing we get to the god of tits and wine.
Game of Thrones.
I love that line so much.
There's a 9-breasted goddess off the shores. Yep.
Me and my friend, we at one point we were going to like a wedding. I was his +1 to the wedding because he didn't want to be around anyone, and he just wanted, like, it was family, and he doesn't like his family, and he just wanted to, like, have someone there that he talk crap to, and I went because free food. And like, we're both big Game of Thrones fans, so we kind of strategically started having that conversation within earshot of the priest. Nice. And we got some looks. We got nice. Some. So
maybe you can.
All right. Well, I think that'll probably. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have something else?
Well, I wanted to like recommend another book. Not for this, but for like people who might like this, if they want to read something else. Could I do that?
Yeah, sure.
Quickly? Yeah, so it's not going to be volume 2. The other book I want to recommend is called Thor's. So Thor with a S at the end. It's Jason Aaron again, and it's a Secret Wars tie-in. So it's basically about the Thor Corps, which is every Thor from every single different universe. They're like a police force on this world that Doctor Doom created. And basically that one is a straight murder mystery. Like they're literally like police detectives. So one of the Thors gets killed. So Thor, like Ultimate Thor, regular Thor, Jane Foster Thor, and Storm, and
Is Frog
Beta Ray
Thor in
Bill.
it?
Yeah, from every
Yeah.
single
Yes!
Thor is in it. Even Dazzler, I think, is a Thor, and She-Hulk is a Thor. So they all have to investigate a murder of one of the other Thors, and they literally, the inner monologue is like straight out of, I don't know, CSI or something. It's like a literal police murder mystery, and it's got a good like
That was
twist
a
and stuff.
tie-in. That was a tie-in to the recent Secret Wars, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was with the God Doom
A
where you had.
loose tie-in, yeah.
That's.
You don't even have to do
I may,
Secret Wars.
I may grab that. That sounds actually pretty cool. Ian, very quick. Thor Corps and Green Lantern Corps. Who would win in an all-out battle?
Obviously the Green Lantern Corps, because guess what Green Lantern rings can make? Mjolnirs! Thousands of Mjolnirs!
Ah.
Oh. I like that I specifically bought this hammer because it was green.
Okay.
So I could, if I ever wanted to like make a Green Lantern sword or something, I could like have a green hammer lying around. I wouldn't have to paint much of it.
Yeah. I think there's actually a frog for in continuity right now where it is an actual frog that found a small chipped off piece of Mjolnir.
Nice.
So like they've managed to do that as something that was fun in Simonson to actually making it a sort of an actual thing. He shows up in the current stuff that Aaron's doing with Thor, and it's really dumb and stupid, and I kind of love it.
So in my Thor X Dragon Ball Z fan fiction, the Namekian frog that's actually Captain Ginyu is also Frog Thor.
Makes sense.
I love it.
Okay.
I need them to do Frog Thor in the MCU at some point. Like they had the perfect opportunity with Thanos having the Reality Stone.
Oh man, that would have been amazing. It's like you should have aimed for my head. Snap. Thor turns into Frog Thor. It's like, oh, whoops, wrong one. Snap again. Now everybody dies.
And they hint at it in freaking Ragnarok that that's happened to him before. He says, "My brother turned me into a toad at one point."
Oh, did he?
No,
I forgot that one.
I think so.
No, he was like, oh, he knew I liked snakes, and so like I picked up the snake to admire it, and then
he turned into a snake.
It's me, and then he stabbed me. We were 8.
But I swear, at one point he says something about, or maybe it was actually in Infinity War. I think he says
Loki.
It wasn't. No, it was the play. It was Matt Damon as Loki.
Yeah, in that. So maybe Loki just hinting at future schemes he was planning to do at some point.
Yeah.
Like I totally turned him into a frog once. Just trust me.
But did he really turn him into a frog, or was that Loki just, taking creative license?
I don't know.
See Infinity War Part 2 to find out.
Yeah, that's the story we always needed. That would have been the Loki movie right there. Just turning his brother into a frog. Been beautiful.
Look, they could do an entire movie of Thor as a frog, Thor as a frog, and I would watch it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Chris Hemsworth would be down. With how fucking ridiculous Ragnarok got, I'm surprised they didn't find a way to throw that in there. All right, everyone. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Comic Book Club. Thanks for joining, Red. Thanks for showing up late.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's cool. Shit happens. Anyway, I'll have a voting video up next Saturday. We'll be going on to
Indie?
third party.
Yeah, third party.
Not Big Two, not Marvel or DC. We'll be going on to third party stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Hope to see y'all there. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.
Oh shit, wrong click. Damn.